Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch, and welcome today to the review of something pretty spectacular if I'm being honest. It's the new Christopher Ward 12 skeleton that was launched only a few days ago. The 12X or the XIIX. Now, this is the second Christopher Ward 12 I've looked at over the course of the last 12 months, appropriately enough. I looked at the original titanium that was launched exactly 1 year ago. What Christopher Ward have done here is take the 12, not even to the next level, but to several levels beyond that. They have squeezed in an in-house, fully skeletonized CNC machine caliber with 120 hours of power reserve from 2 barrels into the same 40mm titanium 12 case. And the result? Well, you tell me, and I'm sure you will tell me in the comments section of the video today. I don't think this is going to be a big seller for the brand. It's not going to be a bread and butter mainstay model within their catalogue. Skeleton watches are a bit of a polarizer to begin with, and skeleton watches with the price tag that this one has are a little bit thin on the ground, shall we say. But I don't think that's the point. I don't think Christopher Ward are expecting everyone who sees this watch to rush out and buy this watch. So why then did they even bother making this watch? We'll talk about all of that after we've had a look at it. Anyway, what I thought I would do today is run through the standard review process, the basics, dimensions, specifications, and so on. I'll show you as much of that movement as I possibly can using my various macro lenses, which take no prisoners by the way, and I'll give you my own personal pros and cons and my moans and niggles, the things I like about this particular model and the things I don't like about this particular model. And then I thought that you and I would have a little fireside chat at the end. See if we can work out how this model fits into CW's current catalogue and what it says about them as a brand in 2024. Let's flip the camera and get on with it. All right, a couple of things before we go on. I'm sure you saw the pop-up, but I always tell you directly. This video is sponsored by Christopher Ward. I will therefore of course leave links in the description of the video to the listing of the 12X on their website. Now this seems to be a slightly new, slightly smaller Christopher Ward packaging arrangement, certainly than the last one I looked at a year ago anyway. I should also tell you that I have another Christopher Ward in the queue for review next month. They're much more affordable brand new quartz chronograph. It's the same packaging. Maybe they could have done something a little bit more upscale for this watch because the price is definitely a bit more upscale. Don't worry, we will talk about the price in a minute or two. Inside there's a little envelope featuring some stickers and a polishing cloth, but far more importantly there's also Christopher Ward's 60/60 guarantee. 60-day returns and a 60-month, so 5-year movement warranty. It is one of the best warranties in the business and just what you want considering this movement is a bit upscale. Underneath all of that we see the now familiar silhouette of the Christopher Ward 12, but with a look you definitely haven't seen before. One further thing to inform you of is that this is a press prototype, and I'm not sure what animal blogger had it before me, but they had a right go at the side of the case, did they not? This one's had a few knocks, as you'll see over the course of the video. But as I said, it is pretty spectacular. I haven't featured a lot of skeleton watches on the channel over the years, but they are really fascinating to look at. Apparently Christopher Ward are using some new fancy CNC machining for the movement. I've done my best to capture it with some macro footage. I will get onto that very, very soon. But first, the price. Are you sitting down? The price on these is just over £4,000, just under 5,000 US dollars, just over 5,000 euros, or just over 6,500 Aussie pesos. Now I guess there's two ways of looking at that price. Either A, it's bloody expensive for a Christopher Ward, or B, it's a bit of a bargain for a Swiss-made all-titanium watch with a fully skeletonized in-house chronometer certified caliber with a 120-hour power reserve. Life is all about perspective, is it not? I will talk a little bit more about this watch's obvious competitors after we go through the rest of the details. So then let's go through the rest of the details. In terms of dimensions, this one is 41mm in diameter, has a thickness of 12.65mm. I measured the lug to lug at 46, and that's taking it from the end of that first fixed mid-link, if you see what I mean. Lug width is not applicable today. 100 meters of water resistance and a screw down crown most certainly are applicable today, as is flat sapphire crystal with plenty of anti-reflective undercoating, and to give the movement a name, it's the CW-SH21 COSC. And I will show you that movement in just a second, but I want to talk briefly about one other crucial measurement, that being the weight. And sized for me, this one comes in at less than 100 grams, 97 grams. That is pretty remarkable for a full-sized auto with a big, beefy double barrel movement. Alright, go on then, let's have a look at that movement. This is the flex here today. This is where the majority of your nearly $5,000 has gone, I have no doubt. It's a skeletonized version of their SH21 in-house caliber. In some ways, this watch is a bit of an anniversary celebration by Christopher Ward. It's the 20th year of their being in business and the 10th year since they developed said caliber. It's a really nice watch to wind as well because you can see that big barrel at the top doing its thing. You can almost count all the 120 hours of power reserve accruing as you twist the crown. Quite whether you need that much is another question, but it's not a question for today. As we get closer, switching to my first macro lens, you begin to notice the rubies, the two main springs and various bridges and plates, and I must say they look pretty good. There is a world of difference between a poorly skeletonized movement and a well skeletonized movement, and this is definitely the latter. Now you may have noticed no Christopher Ward branding on the front of the watch, just the word Swiss made down on the fixed chapter ring. Don't worry though, they haven't left the watch unbranded. They put an enormous reminder of who made the watch on the skeletonized rotor. This is a sapphire sandwich today, beveled edge flat sapphire on both the front and the back of the movement, allowing maximum viewing pleasure. It's a watch you'll be happy to take off your wrist and view from the rear, if you see what I mean. If I switch lenses again to my 2X macro, you can see even more of the tiny details. Now this is way closer than you can get with a naked eye. It's closer than you can get even with a watchmaker's loupe. As such, you can see a couple of rough edges and a couple of specks of dust. This is a prototype. Production units will be shipping in November. I've no doubt that will be taken care of for production units. I guess if you're going to show off a movement in this way, it ought to be the best one available to you, and the SH21 is the best three-hand caliber available to Christopher Ward. Case finish, apart from the scratch marks of course, is all very nice. Super fine horizontal brushing on the mid case, and remember titanium is harder to work with than stainless steel. High polished chamfers on the upper and lower edges, as well as what look like bead blasted scallops and high polished upper and lower surfaces to the matching bezels. Now this watch has in effect a pair of bezels, one on the top and one on the bottom, each containing a piece of sapphire crystal. Now these bezels have multi-finish to them. There's kind of bead blasted scallops, plus they have high polished and brushed sections. Very much a kind of horizontal symmetry to this piece when cut through the midline. Now those bezels are made of grade 5 titanium, which is more durable than the grade 2 that makes up the rest of the watch. On the flip side, just like the regular 12s, there are a pair of screw-on crown guards with a fairly small 5.5mm crown nestled in between them, and etched into that crown is the Christopher Ward twin flag logo. I'm so happy they settled on this logo eventually. It really does represent the brand beautifully. What about the all-important bracelet? I mean, this one is available on rubber, but if you're spending this much money, I'm sure the vast majority of people will be buying it on the titanium bracelet. Well, it's a very good one, thankfully. The links are small and slim, and you'll get a very comfortable fit, but it still manages not to nip hairs. The upper surface finish is the same super fine brush as the mid case and the lugs, plus there's a high polished beveled edge, picking out the high polished upper bevel on the case perfectly. Screw links hold it all together, of course, and at the business end, we have a butterfly clasp. The watch is supplied with half links to help you get the right fit, but it does have one other little trick up its sleeve, a piece of innovation I haven't seen elsewhere, and I'm so happy to see here. It's a butterfly clasp with on-the-fly adjustability. 1.5mm per side, giving you 3mm of daily wear adjustment, tool-free. Now the term game changer is bandied about all too easily in the watch world. I reckon this is genuinely a bit of a game changer. The biggest problem with butterfly clasps was you were stuck with one fit. Not anymore. Perhaps this will filter down to the more affordable 12s at some stage, or maybe they will keep it the exclusive preserve of this range topper. We shall see. What else then? Lume, and a fair amount of it. X1, C1 Superluminova no less, the very best of the best, plus there is what they're referring to as a Global Light wedge at 12. Never heard of Global Light before, but whatever it is, it doesn't last as long as X1, C1, which thankfully does last very well. All night legibility from the 12X then.
On wrist, it's a full-size watch that is at least 50 grams lighter than you would expect it to be because of the materials used, and I guess because of the skeletonization. There's a lot going on with that movement. I'm guessing a non-skeletonized SH21 would be considerably heavier. Now, I've got a 7-inch wrist for your reference. It fits me nicely. It's a good size. The bracelet is very, very comfortable, and I appreciate the lack of weight. I wear a titanium watch as my daily, so it definitely works for me. If we zoom back for a little more perspective, legibility is always a bit of an Achilles heel with skeleton watches due to the sheer complexity of their dials. Hands tend to get lost quite easily. Plus there's that catch-22 situation. You can't really make the hands too much bigger, otherwise you're covering up what you spent so much time and effort making beautiful in the first place. The 12 actually does okay. Hour and minute hand are fairly visible, second hand not so much. I wouldn't describe it as at a glance legible. You probably need an extra half second or so to get a good read on one of these. Alright, moans and niggles, what are my personal list of cons with this watch then? What do I think they didn't get quite right, or at least what should you be aware of if you are in for one of these? Well, the fact that this one is a presser and has been beaten up already does highlight the fact that titanium is more susceptible to scratches and general wear and tear than stainless steel. The lack of weight does come at a slight cost in terms of durability. And as much as it wears well because it's light, it does look and feel like a thicker watch than it actually is because the mid case is so narrow and because there's a lot of watch sticking out beneath it. It doesn't really settle into your wrist as a consequence because the bracelet comes straight off that mid case. You always feel like it's sitting slightly on top of the wrist therefore. It's so bloody light it doesn't really matter, but definitely something I should point out. And as innovative and appreciated as this adjustable butterfly clasp is, again, titanium is softer than steel. Bit of a question mark about its long-term durability therefore. And it seems that that same animal who had this one before me didn't quite work out how to operate the clasp and has damaged those end links as a consequence. It still works fine, but definitely something prospective owners should keep one eye on long term. And as I said, my macro lens, especially the XIIX one, takes no prisoners. There is a bit of dust in here under the dial. As I said a couple of times though, it's a prototype. I'm sure that will be resolved for full production units. So where does that leave us then? Well, it leaves us with just enough time to get into a little bit of a discussion around brand positioning.
So there you have it, or at least you've had a good look at the watch now. What do you think? I think it is pretty spectacular. I think it looks stunning and it is very, very nicely done. I've seen brands trying to do skeletonization at around the $1,000 to $1,500 US mark. It just doesn't look as good. This looks like it was very, very well made. Plus it has that British designed in-house caliber with the enormous 120-hour power reserve if you are concerned about the bragging rights that come with that type of thing. But I also think it is really rather expensive. If you look north of where this watch is positioned in terms of price, then you're into Oris Pro Pilot X and Zenith Defy skeleton territory. Now, the Pro Pilot X, if you shop around, is still going to cost you about 50% more than the 12X. But if you're prepared to go grey with the Zenith, there's less than $2,000 US difference. Now, I would need to see the two of them hand in hand, but you'd have to be a big fan of Christopher Ward not to have a good look, a bloody good look at that Zenith before you hit the buy button on the CW. Ultimately though, I don't think that's the point. It's not a mainstream watch, it's not even a mainstream Christopher Ward. If you like the brand and you like integrated bracelets, there are already a bunch of more economical watches based around the case of this one in steel and in titanium. I guess then this is for people who want something a bit special, who are prepared to spend a chunk more money to have the unique look that comes with a fully machined skeletonized movement, and who are into CW enough to spend that chunk with them. Now, I wouldn't describe it as a halo model for the brand. The Bel Canto, I think, is still very much that. But this is a range topper for the 12, and it sits in that top tier of other Christopher Ward products with the Bel Canto and the C60 Apex. It's a bit of an engineering flex, a statement of intent, and that's actually pretty cool to see a smaller, independent brand making watches like this in the first place. So where does that then leave Christopher Ward as a brand for us consumers? Where do watches like this now position them in 2024? It used to be that if people asked me what watch I recommended, I would say, well look, how much money have you got to spend? If you've got 50 bucks, buy a Casio. If you've got $200, buy a San Martin, but if you've got $1,000, buy a Christopher Ward. However, it is getting increasingly hard to find a Christopher Ward for $1,000. Look, it's not impossible. I have their new chronograph in the queue for review next month. That one comes in at around $600. But a Christopher Ward released under $1,000 is now a far rarer bird than a Christopher Ward released over $1,000. I think they know exactly what they're doing, and you'll see quite intentional price creep from them from here on in, but hopefully with a commensurate creep in movements and innovation and quality to go along with those higher prices. I think the Bel Canto really launched it, propelled Christopher Ward into the next rung of brands, into the next tier a few years ago when it was launched. They're now doing battle with Oris, with Tag, with Rado, with Longines, with that tier of Swatch Group products. And from what I've seen of the steel and titanium 12s and various other CWs that I have been sent for review or I have borrowed for review over the years, you still get a much better watch from them than you do from those entry-level Swatch Group brands. How many people will buy it? Time will tell, but for better or for worse, those who appreciated what CW offered at the entry level, I think you're going to see more and more $4,000 Christopher Wards and less $1,000 Christopher Wards in the future. Well done for making it all the way to the back end of the video. If this one tickled your fancy but not your bank balance, click here or here for 2 more affordable Christopher Wards. I'll see you all again in the next one.